people are constantly raising the bar.
Sacrifices need to be made.
What would you guys say are your biggest weaknesses?
You are your enemy right now.
Is success a lie?
Just a fucking podcast.
Hey guys, welcome to the Student Side Hustle. This week I'm speaking to James Walsham, which peculiarly has the same name as me, yet when I first found him, I just searched my name and I saw, oh, this guy has the same name as me, we're in the same niche. And he actually lives in the place that my cousins are from, which is very strange, which I thought was just crazy. And then I was like, okay, this is cool, haha, like it's funny. But then I looked at what he does and I thought it would be quite an interesting interview anyways. So that is basically how I got onto James and how I sort of started talking to him. So James, how did you get into fitness? How did you become a personal trainer and why did this all start?
So, first of all, man, thanks for the intro. The first time I've ever spoken to someone with the same name as me. It's really weird. So I got into fitness about just over 2 years ago. So I was, I guess, quite late to it. I was 25 when I first started properly training in terms of like getting in the gym and weights training. And I was going through at the time, I basically started training in the gym due to going through a bout of depression that lasted about 2.5 years, and knowing quite a lot about I'd done a few other things fitness wise, like I'd run a few marathons, and knowing the effects of exercise and how it can sort of improve mood and things like that. You know, I sort of got into it, and I was also in a job that I'd been doing. I used to be a store manager for Vodafone here in the UK. Yeah. And at the time, the company was a really difficult company to work for, and I found it actually became such a toxic, difficult place to work that I had to leave. And I found myself in a position where I kept asking myself, like, what do I want to do? I have to do something that I really enjoy. And the only thing that kept coming to me was personal training or something within that sort of fitness area where I thought I can help other people. I can, do some great work there. And so I was lucky enough to be able to. I requalified. I got my PT qualifications in 6 weeks of study, and I started my business as a self-employed personal trainer.
How long did it take you while doing this to sort of figure out that? Like, when did you figure out that to fix the depression, you knew you needed to change your environment or change your situation, or when did you know what to change, or were you just changing everything willy-nilly?
So for me, it was, thinking back, my depression started around it was about September, October 2014. And I was actually living in Sydney at the time. I was living in Australia. And I came back to the UK and I found myself in a job. So as I say, I was a store manager for Vodafone, and I was in that position because prior to going to Australia, I was doing a similar role for another telecoms company. Yeah. And it was a job I'd always been very good at. It was my first job when I dropped out of uni at 20. Yeah. And by 21, I became a store manager, and it was something that I loved and I really enjoyed doing. So I got back into it knowing that was something that I could handle, and really, even though I was going through some stuff personally, I knew that I could get a job and be proficient in it. Yeah. Unfortunately, the environment was very different to the company that I worked to prior, and it was seemingly impossible to succeed due to a number of issues the company was having, and I found it more and more difficult turning up to work every day. Yeah. And enjoy, I guess, putting on a brave face. I always prided myself on succeeding and being able to make, for example, customers happy and deliver a great service. And unfortunately, the environment I was in made it really, really hard to do that. Yeah. And I remember it was getting to a point where I was going in and I had a team of about 20, 25 people. Yeah. And, it became, I couldn't even distract myself with work. I was getting overwhelmed. I was, I was unable to face customers. I was sitting in the office, bursting into tears, all sorts of, quite difficult stuff to go through. And, I guess at the time I saw myself failing in the role, and naturally within depression, you tend to blame yourself. Yeah. And when I recognized that it was actually the environment that was doing me no good, I made the decision to leave. And it was just, I guess, the difficulty in that role made it such that I had to, when I left, I said to myself, I cannot do anything like this anymore. I can't do corporate, I can't do telecoms, I can't do management. Not because I didn't think I was capable, but because I just had to switch my environment up and do something that I loved.
Yeah, so, just for your mental well-being.
Yeah, just I remember over and over again. Yeah, yeah, exactly, man. People were asking me what I wanted to do, and the only thing I could think of was personal training. I mean, I thought about doing a trade like carpentry or something that was, you know, manual labor, hard physical work. But no, it just kept coming to me, so I did it and went for it.
Yeah, because like the thing with being a personal trainer is every personal trainer I've ever met has got most other aspects of their life together. And do you think that's something that just comes with being strict with exercise and health and nutrition and just taking it seriously and putting it as a major priority, and then that helps align the other bits of your life? Or how do you think that bit plays out?
It's a good question because, you know, within my experience, I mean, as a personal trainer, I started as self-employed. So I run my business out of a gym that is, they have quite a unique arrangement with the personal trainers that work in their gym. So none of us are employed. What we do is we work a number of hours per week in exchange for the right to run our business there.
Oh yeah.
So we'll do, 10 hours a week, do a couple of classes, keep the place clean, help members out, all that kind of stuff. But in terms of running a business, I am accountable for absolutely everything from marketing to lead generation to my accounts to obviously converting leads into, so it's the selling aspect, training my clients, writing plans. Whereas a lot of PTs go into personal training as employed, so they'll work for a leisure club, they'll work for Fitness First, et cetera. So as a self-employed PT, I get to do everything my way. But what I've seen in the environment that I'm in is I've actually seen a lot of PTs with good potential, but that had very little business acumen. And ended up struggling, and I think maybe expected it to be easier and expected clients to just fall on their plates. So, my experience of personal trainers is actually vast. Don't get me wrong, I work with some great people, and some very talented trainers, very just awesome, motivating, inspiring people. But, I've seen people come into the gyms that I've worked in last 2 or 3 months, and then they leave because they can't build a business there. So but organization wise, I think you definitely have to have your shit together. I say that I kind of got my shit together. I'm still learning. I think we can always do more, but no, it's it's tough, but again, it's the nature of the beast, and I enjoy it. I love what I do.
And do you have any tips for people going from a job that they're not necessarily too fond of, or they know they need to get out of, and going into a job that they know they'll love, but they know it's a very sought after and like amazing career? Like, because PTing or something like, for example, I don't know if you listen, there's this podcast I listen to, two UK citizens, they're CGP Grey and basically they're YouTubers, and it's a very sought after thing, and they've had a conversation about self-employment and how to get out of a job that you don't like and go into self-employment. Do you have any tips for bridging that gap? Because it seems to be quite a scary thing, because I don't know if for you, but I feel like if you cannot make that 3 month, if you cannot save up 3 months of income or whatever you need to survive for 3 months, then I feel like it's quite a scary thing to do.
Yeah, definitely. It is scary. I mean, I was in a fortunate enough position where at the time that I left my job, I studied full time for 6 weeks, and then I obviously had to build a business. And when I then started working at the gym that I was working in, I wasn't paying, my overheads were low. I wasn't paying rent without having clients. I didn't pay the gym £300-400 a month, or I worked for them. So I was in a position where my partner at the time was covering bills and helping me financially. as was, for example, I think my dad was a little bit as well. And
Yeah.
and again, I had low overheads, so I was in a fortunate enough position to do that. But that was something that I obviously, I didn't just do it blindly. I did a bit of research. So first of all, plan, prepare, talk to other people who've done it. I think, giving yourself the financial kind of safety net of whether it's 2, whether it's 3 months, and then just being in a position to just work your ass off for it. You know, I would say one of the best things I did when I started working as a PT was I sat down with a guy who worked in my gym, who had worked in gyms all over the world, a guy called Simon. Yeah. And I literally messaged him and said, "Hey man, how you doing? Any chance I can buy you a coffee and just have an hour of your time? Like, I just want to kind of quiz you about your experience and how you've built a business, how you get clients." And he said, "Yeah, man, like, no worries." And we did. And, you know, we literally sat in the kitchen at our gym and just had a catch up and, you know, asking questions and just ask everyone anything. If you see someone doing something that you think is good, ask them about it. Their knowledge is valuable. And, you know, as long as they're not, generally people who demonstrate good ideas are happy to help those who they see who may be going through a similar journey and a few steps back. So ask and you'll receive, really. Yeah,
I definitely find, like, especially with this podcast, talking to people who have a similar mindset and they focus a lot on success, but with a spin of happiness and doing something they actually enjoy. I find that helps me a lot. And it's almost like a great tool for me to learn from people who've done things like started their own businesses or done things that I just admire or couldn't imagine doing. And it really helps me talking to them. Do you have any tips for finding, I guess, a mentor or someone that can help guide you through, or you can sit down and have coffee with them and just chat about it? How would you go about finding those sort of people?
I think if you're inspired to do something, generally you will have been inspired by other people. So, you know, you will have people that they might be out of touch. It might be, I don't know, you might be inspired by The Rock. You might be inspired by, you know, just some huge fitness Instagram personality who's got millions of followers, whatever, you know. But generally, in terms of inspiring you on what you want to do, you will likely have people who are within touching distance, people who've done it. You know, so, or if you're in an industry, you'll be surrounded by, it might be the manager of your gym, another trainer in your gym. It might be, you know, a mentor of mine from the corporate roles was my line manager, and he took me under his wing. He saw potential in me, and it benefited him to coach me and sort of upskill me, because I ended up following him up the business ladder. You know, as let's say, for example, I went from a deputy store manager to a store manager. I replaced him because he went to a regional manager. So, you know, if you demonstrate your value to people, they will see it and they'll want to support you if they, you know, as well as if you can give them something back. So look around you. You know, I would say that I've had a lot of people telling me to start a YouTube channel, start vlogging. And I've just listened to, as I say, I listened to your interview with Thomas More. Oh yeah. And I've been checking him out for like 2 years. I really rate his work and his content. And I've just listened to a video he put up tonight about a guy who's asked him a question around how did you build up the confidence to start a YouTube channel? Yeah. And he talked about looking back at his earliest content and thinking it was just utter dog shit. He was like, you know, he compares where he was when he started to where he is now, and he said you just go for it and you build it up over time. So he's inspired me to do that. Like, I'm going to go and do that. I want to do that. You know, I have a lot of Instagram stories, you know, I've had some positive feedback on my content there, so I want to do that, and I want to try and inspire others to do that as well. So big shout out to TM Cycles for the inspiration on that. Episode but yeah, man, just look around, inspiration's everywhere.
And I think Instagram stories is such a great way for people to begin being okay in, I guess, the public eye. Because, like, for me, I don't think Instagram stories was around when I started doing podcasts, that sounds like I was saying it was ages
Sure.
ago. It wasn't that long ago, but like it's not 2 years ago. Like it's only like a few months ago. But I
Yeah,
found
it's totally taken off. It's huge.
it was a great way for me to like start this, and even like my first podcasts, they were fucking trash because I thought they were like, when I look back at them now, I want to cry. They're just so bad. Like, but like I talked to my girlfriend about them, and she's like, no, I love them. Like, they're great. But I feel like that is also the sort of friendship spin on them, be like, oh, I think they think it's great because it's you, and it's hard to bridge that gap of good content or actually
Yeah, of
just
course.
friendship, and I think that's a difficult thing. But I'd like to talk about how you surround yourself with, one, mentors, but two, just nice people in your life who genuinely care for you, and if you weren't around, they would still want you to do well. And if it didn't benefit them in any way, they'd still want you to do well. Because I've over the last like year or two, I've been trying to find those people, and I'm still finding it quite hard to identify the people who truly want you to succeed and truly want you to do things that you actually enjoy and want you to be happy, instead of just, because there are those people in your life who they're friends, and this happened a lot through high school, is you'd have the friends, but they don't really want you to succeed. And I think that is
Yeah,
quite
absolutely.
a scary and toxic thing. Do you have any tips for finding people who genuinely want you to succeed and genuinely care for you?
Yeah, I mean, those types of people that you're talking about. I talk to, for example, my clients a lot around these people, about these types of people. I mean, if you fit basically people are happy for you as long as you fit their idea of what you should be. And the second you start acting outside of their comfort zone, they react in a way that is ultimately threatened or jealous or uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it's how people react when you start doing things outside of their comfort zone that defines how good and how genuine a person and a friend they are.
Yeah.
So, like one of the things that I guess, so for example, on my personal Instagram account, I would say I started my Instagram account back in October of 2015. It was when I was like, I mean, I'm not huge or anything, I train. I was about 73 kilos when I started training, and I'm up about 90 now. So I've put on quite a lot of weight. But when I started actually taking photographs where my physique is potentially looking slightly better, I get comments from friends or people that might call me a douchebag or vain or something like that. And I recognized quite quickly that is a behavior that demonstrates that someone is uncomfortable with that, and they're threatened or jealous or something like that. And again, saying the word jealous, I'm feeling like I'm going to have to defend that I'm not being arrogant when I'm saying that. Yeah. Because my posts demonstrate, I hope demonstrate some form of, for example, in the caption, there is education, there's accountability for myself in terms of my fitness journey. There's, it's never look at me, I look great. It's, here's an update on my physique, still struggling with this. However, I put this and this on, and I'm trying to inspire people. I'm trying to help other people who maybe have been through a similar journey. And you recognize where people, as soon as they're uncomfortable with you doing something, some people have the ability to go, wow, that's new. Cool. Okay, cool. James is doing that now. Good for him. I can see what he's doing, and I support that. But one of the biggest lesson that I learned with surrounding yourself with people who genuinely want you to succeed is that it's definitely a skill. It's something that I find, don't get me wrong, I don't think I've nailed it, but I spent a lot of time investing my time and emotion and attention in. There are a few people over the last few years that I've wanted them to be something, and I've wanted something for them.
Yeah.
seen where maybe I could help them or support them or give them guidance, or
Yeah.
I'd wanted to help them, but over whether it was weeks or months or years, it's become apparent that they didn't want that.
Yeah.
No matter how much I wanted it for them, and as a result, what ends up happening is you end up being hurt by that. So it's trial and error. If you, let's say, for example, invest years in a relationship with someone, and whether it's a friendship or romantic relationship, and you end up feeling like you're giving more than you're getting, there will reach a point where you recognize that so much and you go, do you know what, it's just not worth it anymore. And yeah, I think just over time, unfortunately, some pain will come with that, because you will, it could be someone that you love, and you try to help them or fix them or whatever, and they just don't want it. They're not ready they're not on the same point of their journey as you want them to be, and you end up either getting heartbroken or hurt or angry. So you just, over time you learn to refine. I think what you do is you learn what you can give to people, and you learn your worth. And the more you, let's say, give it, and you see where people appreciate it and give back, or you give it and you see someone taking it for granted or not even acknowledging what you're giving them in terms of value, you learn to kind of keep it to yourself, really. So trial and error.
My thing for that is, like, I find a lot of people at my age, they will ask for the help, but then they don't have the discipline to follow through, and I find it's hard for me to try and be their discipline, and a lot of them want me to be their discipline, but I don't think that is a good long-term solution, or like even practical. Like, they'll come into the gym, train with me, and then I'll like try and teach them some stuff from a completely like unqualified perspective, but just from what I've learned from trial and error. And I'll find it's quite easy to get some people to just do it themselves and just learn and just learn and learn. But then I find there's some people who I'd say just aren't ready or aren't prepared to put in the amount of work that they don't realize is actually needed, which I think...
Yeah, absolutely. Are these people that are younger than you by any chance?
No, most of these people are like either my age or... I'd say usually around my age, because usually it's just my friend, like peers. It's like, usually it's not people I'm like super duper close with, but like, say for instance, my girlfriend. I've got this membership at my gym where I can just bring a friend anytime. It's super easy. I bring my girlfriend all the time, and like, she's super easy to train. Like, weightlifting isn't a huge point in her life. Like, she's not going to become a weightlifter because she wants to do modeling, and you don't want to be like, that's not the kind of physique that she wants. But I found definitely. We can bond quite a lot just by going to the gym together and just by doing something that I love. And then we've done a few things that she loves. Like, I'll try and do a photo shoot with her, which is quite like a fun thing to do. And it's like, I'm not very good at taking photos, definitely. But it's fun. Like,
gets you out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, and it's just like me trying to do that, which I'd always found just weird and hard, but it's very like interesting and intriguing. And I found... But then I compare it to someone that like I've taken into the gym, and they like haven't been engaged. Like, they've asked to come into the gym, and then they haven't been engaged. And I've tried to teach them, and then they haven't really responded to what I've been saying, or even been listening, or even like. And I find it very hard.
Yeah, definitely.
How do you go about?
Yeah, those types of people are the ones that don't want it enough. Like, they think they do, and then they realize that their perception of the amount of work that they need to put in is nowhere near the reality. And ultimately you then, I guess for you, if you're working with people like that, or you're spending time with people like that, who, within your experience and what you've picked up with your, through the, the training knowledge and the practical kind of, stuff that you've picked up over the last couple of years of training. If you can sense that they are not receptive to that, then you have the right and the I'd say the obligation to yourself to not respectfully just stop giving that to them, unless you see an avenue. If you see a desire for them to know that, or learn what you're trying to teach them, and they're just struggling, then of course persevere. But if they are just a little bit apathetic and not, if they're disinterested or just not caring, then you can sit there and go, well, I have some knowledge, I have some, value here that is not being seen or appreciated,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna bring that back. I'm gonna not continue.
Yeah. And do you ever find, does that happen with clients? Like, because I can see a lot of them, obviously they're there, they're obviously paying, they're putting in the time to be there. Do you find most of them give 100% effort, or do you find with some people you have to give them a bit more discipline coaching and stuff like that? Or how does that sort of thing
Yeah,
work?
sure. Yeah, I mean, all of my clients are very different. I guess the best thing to do is of course learn to qualify your clients. So before they make a decision to start paying you money, you need them to have a good understanding or expectation of what the service entails.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I always say to my clients, well, not to all of them, but any that I feel potentially hint that they could think it's a bit easier than it actually is, I always say to them that this is not a product off of a shelf. Just because you pay for it does not mean you get it.
Yeah.
So, it's a service, it's knowledge, it's support, it's guidance, it's accountability, it's being accountable to someone else.
Yeah.
But you ultimately need to be the person who does the work. You need to be willing to see where, there's a reason that you're here, willing to part with money in order to get something. But you need to realize that it's not just lift this, eat that.
Yeah.
And that's why I've differentiated my business from personal training to fitness and lifestyle coaching, because I see so many people make the mistake of thinking it is just, and I say mistakes made by PTs who think that just giving someone a diet plan and a fitness program will get them to where they want to be. And then when that person suddenly, doesn't know how to manage their life, or, gets, work and family and stuff is getting on top of them. Yeah. And they don't know how to continue prioritizing themselves and why they should continue prioritizing themselves. They fall off the wagon, and then the PT makes an easy throwaway statement of, oh yeah, they don't want it enough. Yeah. They didn't do their sessions this week. They didn't, they ate a load of shit food when they're meant to be following their diet plan. And I think that's just a bit of a cop out for PTs who don't understand that they need that people have shit in their lives. Yeah. And ultimately they need support in learning how to manage and organize themselves and manage their mindset too. And
like figuring out, like, because for me, like, there's times when I deliberately take time to just back off from the gym and take that time and just figure out when is the right time to do that and when is the time when I want to put in the hours and just really focus a lot on the gym. Do you find, like, how do you help people figure out how much emphasis to put on the gym?
Well, my kind of ethos and what I try to teach my clients, and don't get me wrong, I'm a hypocrite because I teach people this and I give people advice that I struggle to keep, to follow myself. But that's just human nature. We find it difficult to follow our own advice. Yeah. But I teach people my goal is to teach people that in life, society teaches us to prioritize, basically put ourselves at the bottom of our priority list. Yeah. So when work obligations, financial stresses, family commitments, other things that require an input from us, they have to come first. And so if we do that, excuse me, if we do that, we continue to put ourselves last, and everything gets on top of us. Everything is shit. We get stressed. We're tired. Our relationships don't work. Yeah. We generally don't enjoy life. My goal is to help people understand that if they make time for themselves and they put themselves at the top of their priority list, so they don't sacrifice on their training, they don't sacrifice on their food, they continue to give themselves what they want for them, it actually makes them better for everyone else. Yeah. So, if you look and feel good about yourself and you train, which obviously has physical, mental, emotional benefits, then all of the other things that you do, whether it's your crazy hectic work schedule suddenly becomes more manageable, you're in a better mood so that when you go home to your family, you can enjoy them and you're not stressed about the shit work that you just had to do all day. The work wasn't shit because you were more organized and you were better at it.
Yeah.
There's a big knock-on effect. So I like to teach people to be what I call good selfish. And I call that because selfish is a word with negative connotations.
Yeah.
But I don't like selfish to mean at the expense of others. Do you and do everything that you want to do for you so that you can be better for others. And it's just a bit of a backwards way of thinking compared to the way that society teaches us. But I just think it works. I think that if you do everything that you should do for you, you'll be better for everything else.
Yeah, I definitely think like it works because for myself, I know when I have like when someone's like, "Hey, come out to town," or "Come play video games for 4 hours," and I have to tell them, "Sorry, I can't because I need to do this work, or I need to go to the gym, or I need to do X, Y, or Z." And I find usually they're okay with that, and usually they're completely fine with that, which is something I thought would be the complete opposite. And I thought there'd be a lot of like, "Oh, wow, why are you doing this?" Like there is, but there are also the people in my life who I tell, "No, I have to do the work. I have to be self-disciplined when it comes to this." They usually respect that, and they're like, "Okay, cool, sick." Like the majority of people, I find are okay with it.
Yeah, and if they're not okay with it, fuck them, because they don't see that you're trying to do something good for yourself, and that then comes back to you realizing that they don't see your value.
Yeah, that is literally like I think that is so like important because if people continue to let people who don't actually want them to succeed run their lives and be an important person in their life when they don't see the person as important, then I think that needs to change because it's just toxic and I just don't think that should ever be a consistent factor in someone's life.
Definitely, couldn't agree more.
I'd like to touch on how, because for me, and this is something that I also think is quite crazy, because for you found a way out of depression, and I did, like, I don't know if it was depression or what it was, but basically I had the same thing where this was just a normal, like, mid-high school wage job. I was at high school 5 days, and then the other 2 days I'd be working as a kitchen hand in a cafe, and it was really hard, right? So I remember a lot of times where I remember times where I'd be in chemistry class holding back tears, or times where I was at work holding back tears, and I wouldn't want anyone to see because I was so scared. And then I found the thing that changed it all for me was fitness and getting in the gym and just doing that, because I quit my job and then I think I'd recently started gymming, and then it basically became a huge part of my life, and it completely changed my perspective on a whole lot of things and just how I felt. And I don't know if it changed like the chemistry in my brain or something, but it basically made me, I attribute the majority of my escape from depression to basically fitness. How have you found your fitness journey, and that as I guess a treatment for depression or a substitute to other treatments?
Okay. Well, for me, it definitely helped with, I think, helping with self-esteem, with, absolutely the chemical side of, training releases endorphins, helps you feel good. My circumstance with depression was linked to, going into, I don't want to go too deep into the whole like psychology theory behind it, but I'm a big believer that depression comes about through your cognitive thought patterns and the way that you perceive the world. And mine came about from my trigger was a relationship that I was in, and basically I was with someone who unfortunately had a lot of issues, and I kind of wanted to fix that person, and unfortunately that person did not want to be fixed. It transpired quite a lot later, but I invested a lot of time emotionally in this person, and it got harder and harder for me because I placed this person on quite a bit of a pedestal, and it made it very difficult for me because I I was wanting something for them that they didn't want themselves. I wanted to fix them, and they didn't want to be fixed. They didn't see a problem.
Yeah.
So I spent a long time, and it was like the longer it went on, the more I was actually sat there going, why can't I fix this person? What am I doing wrong? What more can I do? Why am I failing? And so it reached a point where that relationship ended because I actually just felt I had to leave.
Yeah.
And I ended up actually seeking out a lady that, so I actually sought out a therapist that was kind of centered around cognitive behavioral therapy, but was a counselor.
Yeah.
And this was a lady that I'd seen about 10 years prior when I was about 16, 17.
Yeah.
And I went to see her when I was that age because I think my parents had just broken up. I was going through a bit of a tough time. I was a bit of an angry teenager.
Yeah.
And I went there. I remember thinking that I went to the doctors and I thought, I need to speak to someone. I'm having some issues with. Believe it or not, it was a relationship at the time. And I saw this lady. I got referred to this lady, and she ended up helping me realize that it was nothing to do with my relationship. It was something completely different, and I had no idea. And it was basically to do with my family breaking down and my parents breaking up. So I realized that I'd spent about 2.5 years trying to solve this problem in my head, and sort of trying to understand why I was miserable, and I couldn't figure it out. I knew that the way my brain worked and the cognitive patterns and the thought processes in my head did not provide me with a solution or closure or an understanding of why I was miserable or why the relationship didn't work.
Yeah.
So, after the relationship ended, I then found this lady, and I saw her, and I had 4 sessions with her over the space of 2 months. And in those 4 sessions, I was guided through where my thought processes were a bit broken.
Yeah.
Where I was blaming a lot of stuff on myself that was completely unnecessary and very, very misplaced.
Yeah.
Where the relationship and the issues within there were not all of my fault. And that ultimately I saw something in someone that, in this other person, that there were a lot of things that I fundamentally didn't like about that person.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the fog lifted. I always saw it as what was called like the last. I saw it as like the last pieces of the puzzle were in, and I had this fucking light bulb moment, and everything became crystal clear.
Yeah.
And it was mad. It was amazing. But that for me was because I guess I suffer with a bit of an overly analytical brain, and I have to understand things. I have to understand why things are the way they are. Now, for example, with you, fitness can often be enough of an outlet. So I don't know if you needed to understand why you were feeling depressed and down, but you might not have. And as a result, you went and trained, you felt the physical and mental benefits of that, and it made you feel better.
Yeah.
You suddenly just lived a lifestyle that you enjoyed, and your quality of life improved.
I think for
me, my quality of life improved when I, don't get me wrong, training helped me massively. It was a big part of my life. It is my life now. But I guess my quality of life improved. One when I left the relationship. Yeah. But 2, when I discovered what went wrong, I realized that I understood where it all came from, and I was able to go, great, I get it now. Cool. Yeah. I can move on with my life.
I found I still don't know what the issues were. Like, I have a few sort of pointers towards what they were, but I never really, I went to counselors, and I went to a free school one. I went to a random one that some other people that I knew were going to, and none of them really worked for me. But I think I just needed to find the right one for me. But I just didn't. You have to, and I just I went with therapy, I guess, the long path. Yeah, man, you have to. You have to have a relationship and a rapport with that person where you trust them implicitly. You have to have a good connection with your counselor, and you have to feel like they get you. I had 2 courses of cognitive behavioral therapy, which is essentially it's like reprogramming your brain. They look at your thought patterns, and they try and just go, right, well, they take you through some exercises. Try and just rewire your thoughts, really. They help you understand where you might have been a little bit
too negative or a little bit too, you blame yourself where you shouldn't.
Yeah.
And they try and just give you exercises to reprogram that. Now, that didn't work for me because I didn't have a good relationship or rapport with the lady who I was working with.
Yeah.
But as soon as I went, right, I need to understand what's going on here, I remembered that there was someone who once helped me so amazingly that I went, I'm going to look her up. And I found her 10 years later and she helped me. So it was because I trusted her, I trusted her knowledge, I trusted her methods, and I was willing to be totally, totally open and talk about anything and everything that went on in my head. And it worked. I think you've got to have a desire to understand what's going on. And it sounds like with you, you might have some questions or some inklings towards where yours came from. But if it wasn't a fundamental need of yours to get that understanding so you could have closure on it, you've just gone, well, do you know what? Fuck it. I used to be a bit miserable. I changed my life. I'm now into fitness. I do some really cool stuff with my life. I feel better. That's enough for me.
Yeah, I found at one of the counseling sessions, I knew I was holding stuff back. I knew there was things I was not saying just out of fear or out of just admitting it to myself. And I think that was quite detrimental to my mental health because I didn't want to tell anyone that I knew personally, and I didn't want to tell my counselor. So then I didn't tell anyone. And I think that was quite dangerous and quite a silly thing to do now that I look back on it. But it's quite hard for some people to even take that first step to go to a counselor.
Yeah, it's super scary, man. It's crazy scary. I having had experience with it before, that wasn't the scary part for me.
Yeah.
The scary part for me was just before I left my role at Vodafone. I remember I woke up one morning about 4 o'clock in the morning, and I realized I'd reached a point where I couldn't hide anymore because, again, I was breaking down at work. I was all over the place. And so I got on my laptop. Oh, no, I was on my phone, actually. I wrote a Facebook status that was long, in-depth, and I shared everything, to a large degree, very openly with the world and everyone that I knew. I knew that was scary, but I knew that it was something that I needed to do. And it's a status that people to this day still reach out to me and say, man, I remember when you did that, fucking hell, that was amazing. That helped me so much. I've had say over the last, that was December 2015, so it's well over 2 years. And man, and that was after I've been suffering with depression for about a year. And people still to this day bring it up and talk to me about it and thank me for sharing. And they open up to me about their issues because they've seen what I've done and how it helped me. So being willing to open up and talk about it it's a big thing. It's fucking frightening. It really is. But
especially doing something like that Facebook status, because I feel like that could have such a massive impact. But I feel like the scariness of it is so daunting because it's everyone all your peers, every single person. And I feel like there'd be a tendency to think people would laugh or something. But then I feel like the real response would be positive because you're putting yourself in such a vulnerable position. And what I've learned from podcasting and just from normal conversation is when you're in a conversation with someone and you tell them your vulnerabilities and your insecurities, I notice they open up and they don't fear the conversation anymore, and they don't feel like you could possibly be judging them.
Mm-hmm. Well, put it this way, what you've touched on there is absolutely spot on. The number of, whether it was likes, comments, I mean, it's my most interacted with post ever on Facebook.
Yeah.
I had well over, I think, about 70 or 80 comments on there.
Yeah.
I had a further 20 or 30, sort of private messages, people messaging me. Not only were there congratulations and, oh my God, you're amazing, what an inspiration, I had no ideas, all that kind of stuff. You're so brave. It was the number of people that shared with me their own experiences and, they're suddenly going, you've described so much within your words that I have felt. Thank you so much for sharing, because I now feel, that you've done something that I couldn't.
Mm.
You know, there's a few people that I could name that have gone on and done amazing things with their own journeys that have, you know, really, really wonderfully. They've actually, like, let's say a friend of mine called John shared his experience with anxiety and how he had hypnotherapy to help it. And in his write-up, he actually messaged me on WhatsApp about 3 months ago saying, hey man, look, I don't know if I told you this, but I had hypnotherapy for anxiety, and they recently asked me to do like a video testimonial, and they've sent it to me, and I'm shitting my pants about sharing it on my Facebook. And all I could think about was your Facebook status a couple of years ago. And that was the big reason why I did it in the first place. I rung him up and I was like, mate, talk me through it. What's going through your head? And then we had a chat about it. And I said, send me the video. I'll have a watch of it. And then before he'd even sent it to me, he sent me a message and went, mate, it's all good. You and I just talking has just completely nailed it for me. And he shared it and he wrote a big bit on me. And I was sat there going, Jesus, you know, like I've inspired that guy from something I wrote 2 years ago. Like it's amazing. And that fear that you're going to get judged or laughed at, or people are going to think less of you. I think my biggest fear was that people would look at me and just not know how to behave around me, think that I was this delicate, sad little person, and that they you know, they'd be like, are you all right, mate? Are you all right? And nah, man, everyone treats you like you're a fucking hero. Like, you know, like they admire you and they think that you're brave, and you know, they don't understand it, but you know, a lot of people don't understand it, and that's okay. I think we all know that mental health issues are severely misunderstood, and there's not enough research into them. But you know, when you open up to friends and family, they know what they're dealing with when they didn't. You know, they often say, we had no idea, you hid it so well, you always seemed so happy. And all of a sudden, you haven't got to pretend anymore. You know, it's a weight off your shoulders, and it, you know, don't get me wrong, it doesn't give you, let's say, the license or you're not suddenly going to start walking around like miserable all the time. But when you're feeling a bit shit and a bit down and you're having a bad day, you can just be like, yeah, man, I'm just having a bit of a shit day, man. Like, it is what it is. You don't have to put on that brave face anymore.
I feel like that was one of the most dangerous things for me, was not letting anyone know. And I feel like telling people and just being okay with saying, yeah, I feel shit today. Like, I feel like that is quite a therapeutic thing. Because then people, like, if you tell them, like, yeah, I'm having a shit day, they can, like, reach out and help you out. And I think that is quite important. And it's like, because I think for me, I felt surrounded by people but alone. And I feel like that is probably the situation for a lot of people in my demographic. Is because I was watching this talk by Simon Sinek, and he's basically saying how a lot of millennials basically don't like their friends, don't trust their friends, know their friends would drop them for something better. And I feel like that can lead to quite an isolated sort of state. And I feel like that is one of the most dangerous things about, I guess, growing up today. But I feel like maybe it's been the same forever, but I've had no experience of what previous generations have sort of been through while growing up.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, did you say it was Simon Sinek that said that?
Yeah, his talk on...
Yeah, he's quality, man. I love that guy. His, you know, his content around the millennial generation and the issues that they have with immediate gratification, wanting everything now, being impatient. Then you chuck social media into the into the mix, and you know, I mean, I've got, for example, my assistant Jack. He's an awesome guy. He's 20. And he lives on Snapchat. He lives on, you know, like, well, I know Snapchat is literally his go-to. And, you know, when you build your social standing and your just friendships, and you believe things like Snapchat streaks are important, and you believe that if you delete someone on Facebook as a friend, that means like the end of the world, you know, you'll never ever know that person again. Like, they live in a really strange, bizarre world where, you know, these things mean an incredible amount to them. And Simon's stuff on that is is incredibly insightful. And I think that, like, my mum says to me all the time, she's like, I really feel sorry for your generation, you know, sort of, you know, you younger guys, you just, it's so much, you know, more complicated than it was for us.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, like it is. And I even see a big gap between me at 27 and like my assistant Jack at 20 and friends of mine that I know who are sort of in their late teens. Like it's a hard world to grow up in.
Yeah, it's definitely like, I feel like it's just the landscape is changing and people need to learn how to, because I love the way Simon put it. It's like opening up the liquor cabinet and saying, hey, if this adolescence thing ever gets you down, go ahead, like basically saying that, but with social media. And I feel like it is like that because I see my peers, and this is something that I've been quite distraught over the last few weeks, is I see my peers either like talking about their in quote fake friends online, or talking about their like not talking about things, but sort of hiding things online by trying to show a brave face all the time. And I noticed I did that a lot. I did that a ton. And just because it's an easy thing to do is you post a picture of you looking happy and then everyone says, oh wow, haha, so fun, yay. But then they don't see the actual realities of it. And I think it's a very cliche thing now to say, oh yeah, we live in a very Instagram world where you see everyone's highlights. But it's very, very true. And the realities of it are very, like, almost, I think, dangerous. Like, I don't think social media is bad, but I think it needs to be handled properly.
Yeah, I think that my opinion of social media is that, it's, you know, it is addictive. So, you know, it's been proven that when you get a like or a comment on a photo, you know, you have a small hit of dopamine release. You know, you get happy from it. So that's an addictive chemical in your head. And then what you do is you base your, whether it is your popularity, you know, how people see you, on things like the number of likes you have, the number of friends you have, like the number of Snapchat streaks and all that bullshit that you have. And like, you know, what you do is you spend your time. So what you do is you become addicted to, as we all know, we can mindlessly scroll through our Facebook walls. And what you do is you become addicted to a device and, you know, a platform that is presenting to you every other person that you know's best bits, their facades. And then what you do, so you're addicted to something that is presenting to you how perceivedly amazing everyone else's life is. And then what do? You say, fuck, you know, my life is shit. You know, I'm miserable. I'm stressed about, I don't know, my exams, or, you know, man, I'm struggling financially, and all I can see is my friends, you know, buying houses, getting married, graduating university, on holiday, traveling, at raves, whatever, you know, and then you're sat there going, man, my life's fucking shit. And you're like, man, just switch off your social media, get out into the world, go have a beer with someone. You know, like, get the fuck out, get back into reality. Because, and this is where, again, you talk about, I guess, making sure it's not policing it, but making sure that people are introduced to social media correctly. You know, for me, it should be introduced into education in schools, is teaching people how to interact and how social media should be used, and how to prevent things like cyberbullying, and how to avoid investing too much emotionally and socially within social media, and go out in the playground, you know, go run around, go do shit with your friends that you should be doing. You know, get out, go play with your neighbors in the street.
I feel like I was just in that generation that I feel like only in about my probably 11th year of schooling, that's when it really started to kick in. And I feel like I just dodged that bullet of your friends at the playground will be on their phones sending each other Snapchats. And I don't know if that's the realities of it, but it's like, I feel like I just dodged that. And now I'm so close to that generation, but I can't even begin to imagine what that's like, because it's so unnatural. But then playing with your friends in the playground is just such a natural thing, and it just occurs naturally. But I feel like for some people, social media will come naturally. And then for some people, it will just be this confusing, scary thing. And then they feel like it just scares me because I feel like so many kids are going to have to grow up with social media as the main thing that they do with their friends.
Yeah,
And that is just
absolutely. Unless they're raised by
scary.
parents who enforce,
Yeah.
a system and a parenting style that forces them to go and, I don't know, knock on the neighbour's door and ask their kid if they want to come and play football.
Yeah.
Which for me is really important. And don't get me wrong, I'm nowhere near having kids yet, but that'll be something that I make sure my kids do, is that they don't. I don't want to be the dad that hands my 4-year-old kid an iPad to watch YouTube with when they are acting up, and I don't have the patience for them.
Yeah.
Want to make sure that I do a proper job, and take them out, do something, take them down the park, get out in the sunshine. Well, there's no sunshine really here in England, but
Yeah, and figure out, like, I think one of the main important things is the long-term, like, viewpoint. Like, I think it's been so, like, monumental in my life because, like, I'm quite a avid investor and I quite love investing. And the thing with investing is it's so long-term. If you're going to do it short-term, like, good luck. And I feel like that is such an important thing for kids nowadays, because once they realize the benefits of doing something over a year, not just a week, the benefits are so much more monumental, and they just compound, like compound interest. It's just like
that's
so powerful.
That's the struggle that they're going to have, is because they live in a world where they want and get everything now. So it's short term over long time. It's immediate gratification versus patience, time, investment. What and being patience is for me something that kids these days are going to really struggle with.
Yeah. I think we should probably finish this off soon. I'll finish off with this. What would be your main piece of advice for people looking to either take control of their lives or just get through times where they don't feel in control?
In terms of getting through a period in your life where you don't feel in control, I would say have the. I said this to one of my clients actually, who was going through a bit of a similar thing. I said, you need to find the balance between having a relentless desire to overcome your problems, but having the patience to understand that it isn't going to happen immediately. And when you wake up the next day and you still don't feel better, don't give yourself a hard time about that.
Yeah.
If you feel shit, like you kind of touched on it earlier, if you're feeling shitty, don't give yourself a hard time for feeling shitty.
Yeah.
Like, give yourself a break, allow it. Like, just be like, it's better to be like, okay, cool. So I'm having another shit day. Never mind. I'll just crack on. I'll do my best, rather than being like, oh, for fuck's sake, like another day. Like, when is this going to end? Like, none of that's not going to help you. It's going to compound things and make things worse.
Yeah.
But yeah, so taking control of their lives, do that. Just, it's going to be hard, but everyone goes through hardships. And talk to people. Talk to people. Experience is, you'll never be the only person that is going through what you're going through, despite your belief that you will be. You'll say, no one understands me. No one's been through what I've been through.
Yeah.
There are people everywhere that have been through everything that you've been through and worse.
Yeah.
Like 100%. So just get out there, talk to people. And yeah, like I'd say for you, kind of, I guess, getting your life into a good place is learn your worth, know what value you bring to people and those around you, and learn where you invest your time or how to invest your time and energy, and where not to spend it on people who don't see it. Too right.
Where can people find you online? Where can people find Fitlab? All those sort of things. Where can people find you online?
So Fitlab's on Facebook and Instagram. The handle's just Fitlab UK, all lowercase, all one word. My personal Instagram account is The Journey with James. Basically been documenting my fitness journey for the last 2.5 years. And yeah, man, I guess in the near future I'm going to be getting involved in the whole vlogging stuff. Going to get involved in YouTube, but that's TBC. Haven't figured that one out yet, but I definitely will be doing soon.
Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Student Side Hustle. I would appreciate so much if you would leave a review if you'd like to hear more of what I'm saying. Then I would love if you would follow me on Instagram or check out my other social media, all linked in the show notes. And again, I would just like to say thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful evening and study hard.